Guys, another episode of Best Angel Stories 2014. Last time we were reading, let's turn the page. Angelic Trio by David Michael Smith. Today we're reading A Glimpse of Eternity by Catherine Marshall. The special bonus you can see there. One October in the living room of our Virginia farm, I heard this extraordinary adventure from a woman named Betty Mills. Many are going to find the facts of her story difficult to believe. It's a story I can vouch for. The adventure began one June night in 1959. Betty, 29, and her husband John, a salesman for the Sun Oil Company in Indiana, their daughter Brenda, Betty's parents, the Glenn Perkinses, and her little brother had just arrived for a 2-week family vacation at Gold Vista Retreat, Florida. They spent that first day swimming, water skiing, surfing, and shell hunting. Exhausted, Betty and her husband went to bed early. Then the pain began. Hand pressed on her stomach. Betty Miles first wondered, what did I eat for dinner? Then as the pain increased, she thought, what a way to start her vacation. Finally, Betty turned on the light and woke her husband. When the pain became excruciating, he drove her to the hospital. Betty lay in the hospital several days while the doctors made dozens of tests and debated her situation. Finally, she was sent by plane to a hospital in her hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana, where on the 11th day of her illness, oh my God. She was operated on by a gynecologist. What? Gynecologist surgeon. I think that's how you say it. He found an appendix, long ruptured, with a huge mass of gangrene in her abdomen. Every organ was coated. I could give you no hope, the surgeon told her husband and her parents. I've lost 200-pound men in 48 hours with a fraction of the gangrene we have here. She could live only a few hours. But Betty did not die that night, nor the next. In fact, on the 4th day, she lapsed into a coma. She was to be in the coma for most of the next month. The days passed, 10, 20. Betty was given multiple blood transfusions and intravenous feelings. Not a mouthful of food passed her lips. Meanwhile, 2 more operations followed. More days passed, 25, 30. The doctors were certain that the comatose patient could see or hear nothing. That was not the case, Betty said. All that time, I was a prisoner of my own body. When I could speak, see, or smell, or control the movement of a muscle, I could hear everything the doctors, nurses, and visitors said. It was as though when my physical senses went, all spiritual senses were sharpened. If people came into my room feeling hopeless about me, I knew it. They had faith that I would get well. I knew that, and it helped me. If only people could realize, Betty said with great emphasis, that in any form of unconsciousness or coma, even under anesthetics, I do believe, analytically the spirit picks up those attitudes. On July 31st, Betty's fever shot still higher as pneumonia set in. Then her veins collapsed completely. No more transfusions or intravenous feedings were possible. The battle was lost, the exhausted family was told. You better get some rest. We'll call you if there's any change. Sadly, Betty's husband drove home and her parents drove the 31 miles to their home in Clay City. At 2:30 the next morning, Betty's father, Mr. Perkins, was sharply awakened. He did not know how. He had a strong compulsion to get to the hospital immediately. He resisted at first. Finally, he gave in, dressed, and was on his way shortly after 4 a.m. Sometime after he had left the house, the telephone rang. It was a nurse calling. Miss Perkins, I am so sorry to give you this message. Your daughter, Betty, expired a few minutes ago. There was a pause. I've already called her husband, of course. He will be coming over as soon as possible this morning. Concern for her own husband temporarily overcame Mrs. Perkins' anguished grief.
Go get your own.
Where was I? Anguished grief. Well, my husband is already on his way there. Please have someone watch for him and intercept him. It would be a dreadful shock for him to walk into Betty's and find her. Hold on, guys.
Save $400 for a limited time. Get a 90-day risk-free trial when you shop at iRobot.com.
Greetings happen. The best night of the week happens.
We are having taco night.
Dance parties happen. Yeah, that's not good happens.
Hey, put that down.
Big moments happen.
I thought it was UC Davis.
Home happens.
Concern for her own husband temporarily overcame Miss Perkins' anguished grief. Well, my husband is already on his way there. Please have someone watch for him and intercept him. It will be a dreadful shock for him to walk into. Betty's room finally. Nurse promised and hung up. I got there and walked down the hospital corridor. Everything seemed too quiet, too deserted. His father told me.
From me, Winston Smith. Greetings from 1984.
I remember how my heart skipped a beat as I rounded the corner. Stood in the doorway, saw the still form on the bed. Betty was covered with a sheet. Every bit of apparatus had been removed. All instruments, even the chart was gone. I was stunned and despairing. I couldn't even pray. I could only stand by the bed, softly crying, Jesus! Jesus! How could the sorrowing man possibly have known the extraordinary adventure his daughter was experiencing at that moment? Let Betty tell it. I was walking up a steep hill. Yet there was no muscular exertion. It was more like a light skipping or floating or floating a little bit. Without effort, I thought, why steep hills have always affected the muscles and calves of my legs. There was none of that. All movement was a delight. The grass under my feet was a vivid green and of a velvety texture. Yet every blade seemed alive. To my right was a high, silvery marble wall. To the left, slightly behind, was a tall angel. I could only see his feet as he walked. At the bottom of his garments swaying as in a gentle breeze, and the near distance were the echoes of multitudes of voices worshiping Jesus. As the angel and I reached the top of the hill, I saw tall ornate gates. The tops of the scroll-like Gothic design. The gates had a translucent quality like pearls.
For some people, you feel if you see a picture, then you see
Oh my
lucky
God,
that
how
you,
long is this?
that you're alive, that you're able to see
Oh
a
my
few good
gosh.
years
Alright.
in front of you or a good year behind you after concentration camp. Some people live with that guilt feeling, that not heroic at all. They feel, why did I survive?
I saw the whole
All this,
ornate case. The top of the
are
scroll
there
like a
a lot of
gothic
people.
design.
And
The
there's
gates
a
on the
lot of
transition
people that have
only
this
like
problem
pearls.
today.
There were no handles. No way I could have opened them. The angel stepped forward and pressed his palms against the gate. I stood there for what seemed like a long time, reveling in the wonderful music. The feel of beauty was everywhere. From time to time, I would sing along with voices in the distance. I remember two of the songs, old hymns, who had been born again, and the old account was set long ago. Finally, the angel spoke. Would you like to enter and sing with them? I answered, no, I would like to stay here and sing a while, then go back to my family. The angel nodded. I sensed the choice is mine. Then I was going back down the grassy slope, and the sun was on my left, coming up over the wall. I remember noticing details like the sharp shadow of the beautiful gates on the wall. It was at that moment that the world of spirit and this world of time and space fused back together for Betty. In her room, the sun was also coming up. Under the sheet, Betty began to feel the rising sun warming her cold body.
Crazy, miserable place. I have to look at it still.
Despite the sheet over her head, Betty saw wavy letters about 2 inches high go before her like a ticker-tape message on the sunbeams. She has no idea whether she was seeing with her spiritual eyes or with her physical eyes. After what she had experienced on the grassy slope, she knew that the one is as real as the other. After what she had experienced the grassy slope, she knew that the one is as real as the other. The letters, Betty told me, seemed composed of translucent ivory, only fluid moving through the rays of the sun. They stretched all the way from the window, past my bed, on into the room, and read, I am the resurrection and the life. That he that believes in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. John 11:25 KJV. The words were so alive that they pulsated. I knew that I had to touch those living words. When I, by faith, reached out to grasp the words, I pushed the sheet off my face. At that instant, the word literally came life to me. The warmth in the moving letters flowed into my fingers and up my arm. I settled in bed. I was alive! At first, Betty did not notice her father was standing beside her. She had eyes only for the unearthly light in the room, and she began to search for its source. Her first awareness was of the vivid greenness of the grass on the hospital lawn, so beautiful. She saw it, and of a man carrying on his shoulder a case of 7-Up into the building. Into Betty's heart welled a great love for that man. Then at last, she noticed her father by her bed. He was standing there stunned, too stunned to cry out or to hug her ecstatically or to shed tears of joy. Rather, he was rooted to the spot, struck dumb with awe before the majesty of the working God himself. His second reaction was a consuming curiosity to who Betty had seen.
Dispensable to a man incapable of forming fulfilling personal relationships.
One of the most fascinating questions in the history of the 20th century
The
is
second
how did
reaction
Adolf
was a
Hitler come to create
consuming
a
curiosity
regime
to know what Betty
that
had
would
seen.
hold the world in a
For
grip
most of the
terror the
experience
likes of
taking
which had
place
never
before his
been
eyes
seen
had been
before.
veiled from him. Betty, tell me, what's been going on? Describe it, he ordered, completely forgetting that his daughter had not spoken in weeks. Nurses and doctors streamed in and out, asking questions. There was no breathing, no heartbeat, no blood pressure. Between 20 and 30 minutes had elapsed between the telephone call to the surgeon and the moment Betty had sat up in bed. Everybody wanted to see Betty, wanted to hear the story from her lips. When Betty's old doctor kept shaking his head in disbelief, she would look at him in astonishment. But I'm alive. I can talk and see and smell and feel. I feel fine. That night, Betty had a sound asleep. The next day, the doctor closed Betty's door, pulled up a chair, and sat by the bed holding her hand. He spoke softly, his voice kind. There are some medical facts I must help you face, he began gravely. You may have a hard life ahead of you. Peritonitis and gangrene cause the disintegration of the organs of your body. You may have to wear a bag on your side of elimination.
For the first
In my
39
opinion,
years of his life.
you must never try to have another
In
trial.
1886, he adopted the surname
The
of his
doctor went on to
stepfather,
warn Betty
Johann
that
Georg
she had
Hitler.
been blind for weeks
Clara was his third wife,
and should be
and only
ready
two of the children,
for this to
Adolf
recur.
and Paula, survived
Further,
the
so
difficult
many
early
heavy
years and lived into adulthood.
narcotics had
There
been
was strong
administered
affection between them,
that
she
there was
reported
every
later,
likelihood
and bickering.
of a cerebral
Adolf's
withdrawal
father was
problem.
financially comfortable as he worked for the Imperial Customs Service as a government official.
Betty lay there,
He was
letting the
devoted to
grim
duty,
words pour over
pompous,
her,
proud
but
of his
somehow they
status,
didn't
and strict
penetrate.
with himself and
I
others.
certainly
Adolf
want
was
to be
frequently
realistic,
beaten by him.
she told the kind
I never
doctor.
loved my father.
She had
Hitler
always
said
prided
later in
herself
life,
on
adding
being a
unsurprisingly that he
down-to-earth
was afraid
person.
of him and his
And now the
terrible
knowledge
temper, and
of that other
recalling
world,
that he
so
counted
beautiful, so
silently
solid,
the
where
blows of the
everything is
stick
right,
once
so
he had
close at
resolved
hand,
never to
lived
cry again
and would
when
not be
being
denied.
whipped.
Deep within her was the
It is easy
assurance
to find
that
the boy in the
God
man
had
who would
all
demand unflinching obedience
had
from
done
his
all
new super
things
race.
well. Mark 737
He was not a good student, and despite his father
Over 16
wanting his
years have
son
gone
to follow
by.
his
Betty
career
never
path
had
as a
to wear
customs
bad.
official,
Her eyesight
Adolf was more
has been
interested
better
in
than ever,
art.
and
He was
any other
considered
baby
lazy,
you have
except
might well
when
be
reading and
deformed,
talking about his
the
war
doctor had
books.
said.
Then
Sitting
his
there in the living
enthusiasm
room
was plain to see.
at her farm, instinctively
The relationship with his mother was
Betty's
entirely
eyes
different.
and mind.
She was
She
a
went
kind
to
and
her
devout
little daughter
Roman
April,
Catholic
who was
who
romping in
adored
the
and
yard
supported her
outside.
son, as he
Nothing
also adored
ethereal
her.
or otherworldly about this healthy little girl.
In 1903,
Her mother's joy
his
in
father
life
died of a
is
lung
clearly
hemorrhage.
reflected in her.
Freed from the long years of parental abuse,
Great as the
he
physical
was now
miracle
no
for
longer
Betty
able to be
is,
disciplined
much
and was
greater
expelled
than
from school, which he eventually
much
left
greater
at age
still are the
16
gifts
with no
and graces
qualifications.
that have accompanied it.
In
Among them, a
1905,
new
Hitler moved to
appreciation for
Vienna
life
to
itself,
become a painter,
a new love for people.
living
I
partly
could
on the money given by his mother.
die to learn how
He
to
was
live.
twice rejected by the
He told
Academy
me
of Fine
God had
Arts as being
taken my life
untalented
away
and
long
unfit
enough
for painting.
to teach me how to use
But with the
it. Best of all,
encouragement that his
now
talents
I know
lay
there's
in the
nothing at all to fear in
architectural
that.
profession.
It's simply changing the location. Alright guys, that is it for
Despite the
today's
bitterness he felt at
story.
the refusal,
Hope you guys
this
liked it.
encouragement gave him a belief in his talent as an architect that stayed with him. And later, his architect Albert Speer became one of his closest advisors.
At May 12th, we are reading On a Butterfly Wing by Evan Alexander III, MD.
To supplement the financial help from his mother, he did sell some of his paintings.
It's more longer than I thought.
When he first
Hey guys,
arrived in the Austrian
make
capital,
a story if you
Hitler
guys
was
like
aged
and I'll see
18.
you next time. Bye
He was
everyone!
overwhelmed